Hey everyone, welcome back to today's video. I hope you all are doing great. Have you ever imagined technology being used in such a way that you're able to get the right thing in terms of public services, your requirements in the daily needs about your electric supply, your public transportation, all of these, maybe even in decision making? How about technology could be used in such a way that the government is able to tap every single niche in the right manner? Well, feels like a futuristic way of thinking, right? Well, that's just one side. What about the other side? What about, the same technology is used for surveillance, bypass the people, or to control? Well, in today's video, we dive into the world of AI being used in government, the AI governance combination, how well it could be. In today's video, let's also talk about how it could be implemented in India too, how this is going to help a lot of people. At the same time, let's also talk about the risk factors. Let's also talk about how this is going to play a vital role when you think about the risk that you get around people. You're dealing with people, and decision that is made within seconds can cause a huge difference. But at the same time, if the technology is used in the right manner, you can even predict the next trend that will help the people go further. Well, without wasting more time, let's just get started.
This is what the world will look like in about a decade from now. A tech utopia where humans barely have to work. That's according to a group of AI researchers who've written a controversial and influential paper called AI 2027. But they also predict that within 5 years of this, humanity will be wiped out.
One thing that most states are looking for are like, what are the use cases that we start with? And it's not an easy question. On the one hand, use cases are already all over the place. Generative AI is what most folks are talking about, but AI is used everywhere. Most software that you use probably uses some element of AI. If you use social media.
Our research shows that AI and automation can help government agencies free up billions of labor hours per year, time that can be refocused on more critical tasks. In fact, we forecast yearly federal government savings from AI to be in the hundreds of millions of person hours and billions of dollars in wages.
Rapid advances in artificial intelligence, such as OpenAI's ChatGPT, are complicating government's efforts to agree on laws governing the use of the technology.
Automation, multi-layer automation is going to be solved in 2024, which means some startups out there are working on technology where you will go to an AI and say, I want to give you $1,000 and I want you to invest it and give me back 1,200 by the end of the year.
And I think we're seeing that. I think the US government in particular has been incredibly forward-leaning.
Okay, first let's talk about the promise of AI. We know AI has a large amount of capabilities. Artificial intelligence is able to handle vast amount of data, identify patterns, and even, handle repetitive tasks, which feels very impossible for a human, right? Well, all of these things could be done with the help of artificial intelligence, and the governments can tap this niche in the highest ways possible, and it can be used worldwide. Well, consider this: your decision making, your enhancing, your services that you provide, all of these are able to be done in the most efficient manner with the help of AI. Well, let's talk about few of them because there's a lot of exciting possibilities waiting out there. So the first one is optimized public service. Imagine this. You have an AI chatbot which is readily waiting for you, which is 24 bar 7 available. At the same time, it is able to talk to a large number of people, have that huge amount of data stored in, and is able to solve queries within 8 minutes or less than that. And it can go on and on, where you're able to put a lot of officers from your side, and it takes a lot of time. AI can easily do it, readily available, and in such a way that you can even make the people do it from their comfort place, from their home, or even whichever place they decide to. So think this as an opportunity where like these kind of technology is being used with the help of AI, and people are able to get the most amount of options at the same time. Second, we can talk about traffic flow. Imagine this where I know artificial intelligence is able to identify the right pattern and is able to reduce the congestion. Because of congestion, there's a lot of pollution. So how to reduce this with the use of proper traffic flow, and how this could be done with the help of artificial intelligence. Surveillance cameras could be installed with the right artificial intelligence technology being applied. It's able to tell which lane should be sent first, which lane should be sent later, or how it could be optimized. All of these could be done with the help of artificial intelligence. We can take another example. Think about disasters. Now, disasters are something that we cannot even predict. We can't even think when it's going to happen next. Well, one thing that we can be ready is the disaster relief. How about AI is able to identify the pattern? How about AI is able to look into the historical data, and it is able to tell you the next prediction? It's able to tell you what you could be ready with, what how much of resources is required, how much of manpower is required. All of these keeps it readily available for you, so that all of these crises or all of these unknowing things that happen will be easily solved. So that is one thing that we can think about. Now, second, let's talk about enhanced decision making. We know how decision making plays a vital role. Every decision made by the government plays an important role for businesses, for trade, for individuals, for students, for many other aspects. Now, decision making. How about AI or the whole terms of artificial intelligence being used in this particular field, where you're giving the data, you're giving the historical data, all of these in terms of sectors like health, education, tax, policies, all of these. Imagine where you're uh, every time you bring a new tax regime, or every time you're trying to bring a new tax rule, you are able to take the help of an artificial intelligence, and it is able to predict and tell you if this been used, it is going to help these amount of people. Whether demography, by the help of the right information, it is able to tell you what you can do next. Policies, all of these things can play a huge role if artificial intelligence is being used in the right manner. Take up this as an example. What about healthcare industry? The healthcare industry's data set is given to an AI. At the same time, it's also given the demography data set. Now, AI is going to look into the pattern and also the demographic data set, and it's going to predict what would happen and what is the right thing, if you keep ready for it, would be the best. So this is something that it's going to help in a lot of manner. Third, let's talk about how AI is able to combat frauds and unwanted decisions or done by an individual. So we know that artificial intelligence is capable to identify patterns. We are also, and we can also think how AI is able to identify suspicious activities, especially in the data sets of financial data. Whenever a new policy is brought in, whenever a new financial thing is brought into the whole world, there is chances that frauds will happen, scams will happen. At the same time, there will be people who will try to mislead something, and that would just not lead to things happening in the right manner. Well, AI is able to identify. What about that bringing into the picture? Well, this is now possible. AI is able to identify patterns, AI is able to predict what could happen. All of these things will help in a lot way. It will help in terms of your scams and frauds getting reduced, wastage is getting reduced, tax evasion is completely bringing down. And what about your taxpayers? Whatever the tax paying capabilities are, it's now being fairly distributed. Your resources, procurement, sometimes the resource procurement takes a lot of time. How about you bring artificial intelligence in that process? It is going to identify and let you know what steps that could be led, where your resources are allocated in the right manner. Well, these are some of the capabilities. I've just spoken about three, but these are the capabilities that artificial intelligence brings onto the table, and there's still more. So it's about how government uses it in the right manner. Now we spoke about all of these, right? Now let's talk about how AI is going to help countries like democratic countries and authoritarian countries, because this is going to identify and we are able to think, understand in a much deeper manner. Okay, first let's talk about AI and democratic countries. Well, when you think about AI being used in democratic countries, the few things that come into mind is maintaining transparency, well-being of all the citizens, and also enhancing government's efficiency. Well, these are all important, but there are a few factors that has to be kept in mind. And one of that factor is smart city and urban planning. Well, cities like Barcelona and Spain have made AI as a pioneer in urban planning, where it is able to analyze traffic patterns, it is able to understand the waste collection routes, and also understand how public service has been put up and how it could be optimized. All of these AI is already been put into play. Now, what it does is basically identify the best ways possible for traffic congestions. It identifies how public service and with what particular time at what particular date or what particular period of month it is being used the highest and plan accordingly, and the waste route where the cities are much more clean. So once all of these things are done, now you have a final result of having much more traffic free, as well as your public service at the top priority, and also a much more cleaner city. Second one, that is predictive policing. Now countries like United States have already deployed artificial intelligence in policy building and decision making. Now algorithms with the help of data sets, AI is able to predict the next front line of frauds or crimes that could occur, or maybe the specific areas that likely are to be happening for these specific crimes. Now, government with this type of prediction will be able to deploy the right resources at the right time. But this also has a concern. Now, the concern is very simple. What if the algorithm that is being given to the artificial intelligence and the historical data set that has been given, the algorithm has bias? Now, AIs are tend to have these mistakes, but with the predictive analysis, having these mistakes can cause a major problem. In the sense, for example, a specific area or a community is targeted with this. Now, this will just lead to much more inequality and people raising issues. So, it is important how this concern is kept in mind and how well prediction is maintained so that there is no such of concern that rises from the public. The third one, that is basically ethical governance and building the public trust. Now, yes, government is deploying AI, and AI is definitely efficient and performs tasks in a much better manner. But what about the ethical transparency? It is being transparent with the public. It's about the public knowing what the government is up to. Yes, you're building many things. You're investing your money from the people into many projects. You're looking for the welfare of people. Also, you're building up policies. All of these factors, yes, you're taking help of AI. But how about you keep it transparent? The public should know what's happening in the background. The public should know what the artificial intelligence is looking into the resources. What are the data sets that the government is feeding? What are the things that the governments are looking into so that the decision is efficient and in an effective manner? So, it is very important how ethical and responsible artificial intelligence becomes, an important role right here. Countries like Canada and European Union have already started working on a structured and a comprehensive AI ethical guidelines, which keeps in mind of all the welfare and all the rights of an individual that is kept in mind, with no biases happening, with no algorithm looking into inequalities and other stuff, and kept in mind that a trust is built. So it is very important that this point is kept in mind when you're using artificial intelligence in government. Now, we spoke about democratic countries. Now let's talk about the authoritarian countries. How are AI is going to be deployed in authoritarian countries? So let's start with that. Now, talking about AI being used in authoritarian country, the picture is a little different. It's more about having control, it's about having surveillance, it's about not letting the people bypass the system. It's about having a very strict oriented system that doesn't let people go by, and it is something that protects you from a lot of other factors. Well, this has both the good side as well as the bad side. It is something that we need to think about which would be the better one. If you think about the good side, it's about how these informations or misinformations, or maybe sometimes your fairness in terms of your credibility, all of these things could be used in the right manner where the government has the control. But at the same time, it also has a questionable factor for your citizens rights, freedom to talk, having the human rights to be expressed. All of these things plays as an important role. So it is important. At the same time, we discussed a few factors that make has a key important role in this particular AI being deployed in authoritarian countries. The first one is mass surveillance. Now countries like to give the best example is China. Now countries like China deploy AI in this particular field. It's having a complete surveillance on what your citizens are doing, what is going on, having an idea about what is the everyday, of how is the systems working, how the public transportation is working, how people are going from one place to another place. So it's a complete surveillance. It's about how what a person is doing also in the online, how what a person is doing in the internet. So it's like a complete surveillance. It's like having face to facial recognition, voice recognition, movement recognition, all of these put together, having a proper surveillance everywhere. It's like having a camera with an AI inbuilt. So it just looks at you every single time wherever you go. So this also is a questionable factor where what about your freedom, what about your privacy, isn't that a concern? Well, for the government, it is going to be an important data because they'll be able to understand what your movement is. It could be a potential movement for maybe looking into your movement. They can uh, predict if there is going to be a concern in the near future. They're going to look at the pattern and make the right deployment of resources. So all of these things will play an important role, but at the same time, it's also a concern. So mass surveillance, yes, this is one thing. Second thing is social credit system. Now connecting to the first point, the second point it is based on your data, based on your movements, based on your performances, based on all of these, you're given a score. Now, I would not like to mention the countries, but there are countries that look into all of these. They basically look into your behavior in the internet. They look into the behavior in your everyday life, all of these things. And if you tend to have less behavior on all of these factors, you tend to get a less score. And if you're doing really well, you're getting a high score. What is going to have an impact? Very simple. It's just going to be that if you're having a high score, you're getting the privileges, you're going to get a lot of things. You will get grants, you will get many other accessibility. But if you have a low score, many things like you're getting access to loan would become difficult, travel restrictions, and maybe even employment. That is also one factor that you can think about. So this is something is like you're using it to restrict a lot of misleading activities. But sometimes if the government also is not using the system in the right manner, this could just lead to your freedom being utilized in a very wrong manner. So it is also a concern, but at the same time, I feel it is going to be like a thing that is needed for keeping in control. Third one that I would like to talk is censorship and disinformation. Well, this system is really required at this digital age where fake information is going on everywhere, fraud, scam, and all of these things. And this could just lead to, citizens having a mass amount of problems. But at the same time, if there is information that is concerning and maybe some kind of information that, that is required to reach the people, and you talk something against the government has the control to bring your information or what kind of activity you do to bring it down with the help of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, with the help of the algorithm, it's able to identify these patterns. It is able to identify if there's any person doing something in the internet, bring it down, bring it and remove out. So misinformation. But it's going to be a problem for example, if the government is not using this technology in the right manner, it just leads to a things that shouldn't happen. It's just going to bring in a concern that your freedom is not given, you're not giving what the citizen wants to speak out. So yes, it's a problem, but at the same time, I would say like sometimes some kind of content that is not meant for a particular age group, or some kind of information that shouldn't be existing in the internet or maybe outside the internet, keeps on moving around, and it just leads to a mass information leading huge news. So to reduce that, I think this system, that is disinformation, your misguiding information, has brought down censorship. So AI will play a major role in that. But yeah, again, it's a quite, concern factor. So now we spoke about how AI could be deployed in democratic countries. We spoke about how AIs could be deployed in authoritarian countries. Now let's talk about how AI can be deployed in India. How systems can be made. How it could make tasks much more easier, efficient, and many other possibilities that we can talk about. So let's start talk about that. Okay, so now we are talking about one of the most largest democratic country in the world, one of the most growing population in the near future, and one of the most growing economy in the near future. So the opportunities are very high and there are endless possibilities. But at the same time, it is very important that we look into these aspects in the most safest manner, because one mistake can cause a huge problem. So let's talk about some of the factors. First one is revolutionizing the public services. Now, government in India focuses on ensuring that the public services are provided in the most efficient and effective manner and the most highest possible, because it's going to help a large scale of population. Now, consider this as an example. Aadhaar system, where officers were deployed in the earlier, I think now when a lot of agents, lot of automations are coming into play, where AI is given the data, AI is given the historical data, AI is given the citizens data which has been stored from a long time, which technically how a normal human you also uses. The same thing is given to the artificial intelligence with a proper secure network, so that these data or information is not stored or not being used in a in a very wrong manner. These are given to agents or chatbots which help the citizens get their Aadhaar processing very easily done. It could be even in such a possibility that in a near future you need not even go to Aadhaar offices. You could do it right from your home. Another examples could be different schemes. Government brings in a lot of schemes, like a lot of schemes for startups, a lot of schemes for buildings, a lot of other schemes also. So many of the people in this country are not aware of these schemes, or they don't know how to access it. How about creating numerous number of chatbots which lets the person know how they can access it? Are they eligible to a particular thing? And what if they don't take this and they take an alternative? What if there's a better alternative? These all could be done with the help of agents, with the help of AI coming into picture, artificial intelligence getting all of these information and data where it could be stored in a very huge vector database. So these things can be implied, and it's going to revolutionize the way how human power can be reduced and human power can be shifted to monitor all of these, whereas these systems will look forward to helping the citizens get their access to whatever they're looking into. So this is one factor. Second one is urban planning and infrastructure. Now, India's infrastructure is going in a rapid manner. Cities are going in a very large scale. Where there were no cities before, now they are becoming a global capable centers. They're becoming places where big companies are coming and establishing right here. Now, when these things are happening, it is very important that you look into the infrastructure. You look into the roads, you look into the public requirements like hospitals and other stuff. And there are many things that you need to look into this when you're planning of a smart city, right? Well, how about you use artificial intelligence right here? First of all, during the development process, from the resource procurement till the planning, in the sense how the city should look like, how the road should look like, how we have to take the road. If you're constructing a particular road, how these can be built in a much efficient manner. What could be the estimate date? What could be the estimate budget? All of these could be done if the data is stored and given to the artificial intelligence. Having the access to all of these, it could give you even you could use image generation models. There are a lot of image generation models from different platforms. How about government uses that? They can reimagine the way how the city could look like, and they could work on it. A proper plan could be planned on this. So these might be very basic thing that I'm talking about, but when you look into the large scale, it has a huge thing that you can work on. You can build your own system, by the way. If you have manpower that is deployed to develop these kind of systems, they can literally do it with the help of artificial intelligence nowadays. So the development process is much more easier right now. Now, once the development is done, the maintenance, for example, traffic congestion. Now in cities like Bangalore, where traffic congestion is drastically reducing because of the artificial intelligence system that is being used, where which lane has to be left, which lane is going to give the green signal, where the red signal has to work. All of these things are happening with the help of artificial intelligence. So your congestion is going to reduce, your traffic congestion, that leads to reduce of pollution. So it has many other factors. Now cities like Mumbai, where your waste management, your waste collection is properly planned. So this could be done in a much efficient manner in all, overall all the different states, where your resources, your artificial systems and everything is deployed in the right manner. So this is another factor that we have to look into. The third factor that is mainly very important, that is to keep in mind how the citizens are having the access, mainly in terms of how your resources and all of these are procured. It all is important with this one thing, that is decision making, enhanced decision making and policy building. Now every person looks into the next policy that has been introduced into the market. How about government uses artificial intelligence there? How about artificial intelligence are deployed in conducting deep researches, deep understanding of all the historical data, where you're going through a lot of sensor reports, you're going through a lot of demographical reports, you're having satellite data, you're having a lot of information, where the artificial intelligence is able to focus on which region is for example, let's take education. A particular region is not getting the right education that is required. So the next time you bring in a new policy, the next time you bring in a new scheme, you are having that kind of scheme going to these particular areas. People are getting the access to it. So these are all possible with the help of AI coming into the picture, where your policies and decisions can be analyzed and predicted with the help of artificial intelligence, only and only because of having that particular data. Now I feel in India, data is that. It's not like data is not at all possible. It's readily available. Even if programs are started with collecting the data, also using, like as I said, satellite data information, you're having a lot of organizations that are already working into this, collecting it from it, making these systems deployed, having people who are working on the system. I think this is going to help a large scale of population. So this third factor also plays a huge thing. Now let's talk about the fourth factor. Okay, it's going to be developing centers or a separate department or a separate framework. Now we spoke about all of these three factors, right? And there are much more possibilities. We can have many other things that we can think about. But who's going to manage all of these? Who is going to think and plan? Who is going to think about the technology that is required? What is kind of system that is required? Who is going to control it? Who is going to lead it? What's going to be the vision? What's going to be the mission? All of these is a huge factor, right? Well, for this, definitely the government cannot put their hand into this. The government can take the help of this, and they can take decisions, and they can make many things possible. But the government can really not get into this particular field. Then who's going to manage the entire country or the states, right? Well, for this, the government has to either bring a separate department or has to bring a separate center or some other factors that they can look into. A specific leader. You have to choose a particular leader who's, well groomed in this particular niche, who's having that idea, who's having that particular knowledge, and not just one leader, multiple leaders, who are into this particular field. They go around the world, they look into the different technologies that are available, they bring it here. All of these things are going to play a huge role. Once they have that, who's already been in this industry and who can do this, all of these things, who can address the public, who's able to tell the public what this technology is all about, is the one we can choose for these kind of leadership. So we have a group of leaders who are considering these aspects and controlling it and taking it further. At the same time, we have a separate group of people who are developing it, who are having the power of maintaining it, or having the power of controlling it, and having mainly to monitor it. That is much more important. See, as I said, countries like Canada and European Union have already started working on responsible AI. I've been started working on a proper comprehensive AI ethical guidelines. So similarly, here it is required where a particular department or particular group of people are looking into the responsible AI category, ethical guidelines, so that every person in this country is getting the equal rights and none of them is getting biased. A particular area or a particular group of community is not targeted. So all of these things, brings in a huge number of things that we need to look into, or a factor that we need to look into, right? So that is one thing. Also, as I said, technology procurement, also the resource that you need to deploy, all of these planning, the budget for that, all of these plays a huge important role. So the government should work on this. and as well as the factors that I've already discussed about, I think that will definitely make or pave the way to for AI in this particular country, that is India, and help a lot of people. So now that we have spoken about a democratic country, we've spoken about authoritarian country, we are now going to talk. We also spoke about India. Now we're going to talk about the global politics or the global dominance. How this is going to be a questionable thing. How AI or artificial intelligence could be used in this particular thing. Now I like to say one particular thing in this, that is technology superiorance. Well, see, artificial intelligence, yes, the term, which is a huge thing, and it is something that any country that has is going to develop in a major manner. But what about the technology for it? Things like computer vision, machine learning, deep learning, algorithms, all of these things play a huge role. So, countries that are capable of this, countries that have these resources, have all these systems readily available, are going to be leading in this race. So, the global race is only depending on the technology development that has the whole structure for the artificial intelligence to work, right? So, what could be the factors? Well, you can see there are going to be two factors. First one is how you're going to help the other country. In the sense, this could also be like a diplomacy. For example, a country that is having a huge advanced in a particular sector in AI, basically, let's take healthcare sector or maybe managing people, that kind of sector. A country that is leading in this particular field can help other country building its goodwill or building its influence, building its people's value. So when it comes to a particular period of time, the diplomacy can be playing a huge role in this particular thing. So if you're someone who's seeking help from a other country for this particular technology, when there's something happening wrong or maybe something that was not going in the right manner for both the countries, this could just lead to those processes going in a very long way. So that is one thing. A second one is AI warfare. Now we know how defense technology are exciting. At the same time, they're very dangerous. Like, if you think about it, technology having inbuilt AI is very powerful, right? Now, in terms of warfare, where your defense, like even aircrafts, or it could be a missile, guided missile or ballistic missiles, or any kind of warfare that is guided with the help of artificial intelligence, it just shows that how technology is much more advanced. Before, it was the human intervention, but now it's not required. UAVs, that is drones, that also is right now that can be controlled by artificial intelligence. You're sitting in one particular corner of the world or country, and you're just able to control it from various other places. So it becomes a factor of thing that we need to think about when AI coming into warfare is something that is going to be a concern, because see, war or maybe even defense is meant to protect yourself from whatever happens wrong. But if you see on the other side, it's a loss for a lot of things. It's a loss for people, it's a loss for resources, it's a loss for development and many other aspects. So it's a danger. So it's a something that we need to think about. Now we've spoken about all of these. Now, what are the advantages and the disadvantages, right? So let's talk about that. Okay, first let's talk about the advantages. Well, the first advantage we can talk about is automations and efficiency. Well, where countries were focusing more on manpower deployment, where certain kind of officers were deployed in certain particular field, which is there's a hectic process that you need to just complete off. Well, now AI coming into the picture can reduce it. It can do it in a much efficient manner. It is able to make the process again and again and again. Your complete automations can be deployed. The repetitive tasks can be now handled by agents. The AI agents that are coming up, AI can just control over it. And where your officers were deployed, your manpower was deployed for that, it could be shifted to something else. It could be focusing more on something complex, more on human-centric approach. So these kind of things can be looked into. The second thing is going to be data-driven decision. Now, as I said, from or whatever is discussed in this entire video, I've always kept on saying that government is going to have like that gold mine in their hand, that is data, from censored data or historical data or your economical indicators, your public indicators, or maybe even the social indicators. All of these things is going to be a major data for the AI itself. So whatever decision could be, it could be policy building, tax reforms, or some kind of other reforms that you want to bring into the picture, maybe something that you want to initiate, or maybe some policies that you want to bring in particular fields like financial field, financial data sets will be used. So all of these, I think the government is going to have a major handhold in the data, and how well it is responsibly used and supervised is very important. The third thing is obviously going to be your ability to reach a large scale of audience. Now you consider this, before artificial intelligence coming into the picture, the ability to reach a lot of people would become difficult. It could be to the location or language, or maybe physically being available. But now that the technology is there, you could use the technology in the right manner along with artificial intelligence. You'll be able to reach a large group of people. Your message is much more clear. People know what you're trying to do. You're able to solve that problem. You're able to bring out many other solutions to these. So with the help of the technology as well as artificial intelligence right now, no matter of the language or location, or maybe even the physically being there, it could be done easily. So the fourth one is going to be how well the government is able to utilize the data, and mainly from predicting, maybe from performance, or maybe from analysis, from the things that are happening currently. Like for example, when I told about the authoritarian countries, where I spoke about the censorship and disinformation. So any kind of disinformation or any kind of information that is misleading to a particular group, or to a particular age, or to a particular gender, or anything, something like that, it could be brought down. So the complete privacy, the complete public safety is looked into to the help of AI. So that's what I said. The algorithm is able to analyze, it's going to predict what might happen next, or if it has happened also, it could be brought down with the help of technology, with the artificial intelligence coming into the main picture. So these are all the advantages that AI brings onto the table. But it's not always sunshine and rainbow, right? There is going to be disadvantages. So let's talk about it. The first major problem, or something as a concern that we need to look into, is going to be biased algorithms, and mainly some particular things might not be the right way for a particular group. Right now, for example, I'll give you a simple example. I was doing this course, I think 1 year back. Maybe the things might have changed right now. So by the time you guys are watching this video, it could have been changed. So there was this particular bias. So when you go ask a artificial intelligence, an AI or a descriptive AI, that my friend is a nurse, it tends to say that it is female, in a gender, if I'm talking about. And when you go and say that my friend is doctor, it tends to say that it is a male. So if you think about it, why can't it be a female gender also? Or in terms of nurse, why can't it be a male gender? So there's this gender bias. That is what I'm trying to say. So algorithms have that bias. Algorithms might target a certain type of group, which is not going to work in a long term basis. So this is one major problem. The second major problem is going to be surveillance and having control. See, I spoke about this in the authoritarian countries, where it's like going to have like a camera that is fitted with an artificial intelligence working in the back end, just looking through you continuously, whatever activities that you're doing. There's a factor of freedom coming into the picture. There's a factor about what you want to show or say is not being able to put it out. So this is also a major problem if artificial intelligence is having a control over it in a very wrong manner. Also, at the same time, over controlling also will lead to a major problem, right? The third one is going to be how transparent you could be, and also in terms of transparency, it is also about how you can procure the technology. Now, over the period of this video, I've only spoken about the technology being that, artificial intelligence having that. For example, machine learning, could be computer vision, it could be algorithms, it could be large data sets. All of these things, maybe sometimes even the the technology says, for example, like the chips, what kind of chip you're using, or maybe what kind of softwares that you're using. All of these things will play a major uh, role, by the way. So this thing also comes with an other disadvantage, is how it's going to harm the environment. See, sometimes your software or the systems that you use might also cause various amounts of damage. It could cause pollution also. So that thing's also going on right now. So resource procurement at the same time, transparency is a very important thing. So for the public, it's about building the trust. So for building the trust, how transparent you could be, what kind of procedure is followed, what kind of things are being used in the back end is very important to be shown in the process of your decision making, or maybe any particular automation you're looking into, or any other field that you're looking into. At the same time, if you come to the other side, that is your resources. It now a lot of other countries have the capabilities to have these technology. Not a lot of countries will be able to procure one particular technology and the other one. And that is why I said the geopolitical race, it's going to play a major role right here. So that also can be taken in a very wrong manner. So this is going to play a major role, that is transparency as well as your technology procurement also will play a major role. Other than this, one more that is going to be a major problem, that is your data that is being stored. See, data that is stored is very good, but over the period of time, is it getting changed? Is it something that is happening its reform? Is it happening its own ways of changing itself? Like, see, for example, let's consider human data. Over the period of time, the human has done a particular problem or a particular thing, but over the period of time, it might not be the same. There might be a change. There might be a certain thing. This is an example. Maybe even in terms of a demographical factor, if you think, there might be serious changes. So how the data is going to be changed and how it's going to be supervised, surveillance is over the data is important. So that is also one thing that has to be looked into. So this is also going to be a major disadvantage in terms of AI being deployed in the government. So these were the advantages and the disadvantages. Coming to the end of this video, all I have to say is I'll be bringing up more videos like this in the future. So stay tuned for it. Stay connected and you will know more videos like this coming in the future. Also follow up the other videos that I've been doing in case studies. I've done videos on big data. I've done videos on how AI is helping Spotify, Netflix, data driven strategies, and many more like this. So stay tuned with further more videos like this. Lastly, for this video, I have to say is that's it for this video. See you in the next one.